Hey everybody, the Tree City Growthcast is being brought to you by our company, Tree City Creative. We are a full-service creative marketing company, and we absolutely love helping to produce things like brand videos, social content, podcasts. We do live event production and programming. If it involves getting your messaging down and then helping to get that message captured beautifully and then out to as many people as possible, we would love to help you out with your endeavors. So please, get in touch. Dr. Robbie, so first, can you tell us, a little bit about yourself? You are obviously a doctor, you're internal medicine doctor, which is much better than the external guys. And you went to Emory, you were telling me, right? What one drew you to medicine? And then how did you kind of go from being a doctor where did you start out at? And then how did you end up in nonprofit work?
Yeah, so I was first exposed to medicine actually through my parents. Both of them are nurses.
Right.
And initially wasn't really drawn to it. There were a number of things that maybe I just wasn't really interested in, kind of going through, even middle school and elementary school. Never wanted to be a doctor. But then I took this class in high school, AP biology, and really fell in love with biology and the beauty of the human body and anatomy and physiology, and ended up going to college at the University of Richmond and majoring in biology there. And then was at a point where, was thinking about maybe doing medicine versus perhaps research, and ended up through a variety of experiences just really feeling called into medicine. I had the opportunity to shadow some physicians. When I was home on summer breaks, I actually shadowed some kidney doctors or nephrologists that were working as a part of a dialysis unit. And I really just got to see the connection, kind of just that basic human connection and opportunity that physicians have to make in the lives of people, walking them through a lot of the unknowns of illness. And I was just really moved by that and drawn to that. And so it was really kind of that human connection paired with that really love and interest in science and biology that really drew me into medicine.
What about the chemistry part? Did you like that part?
I did.
Oh, okay.
But
like that too.
I had a great organic chemistry teacher, though. It's all in the teacher, so he made it fun, and that really kind of drew. So I loved organic chemistry.
Okay, great. I took that too, and that was kind of. I feel like for a lot of people, that's like the leader course, right? For medical studies. So it worked on me, but for the most part, I finished up. But yeah, so. Man, I love it because it feels like that you really have a calling for what you do. And as you were sitting there talking, I was just thinking about how, like some other professions, but not all professions, I mean, you are seeing people on some of their worst days. Yeah. And so does that calling kind of feeling that way kind of help sustain you through those tough times and those hard days that you're having with folks?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a hard job. I mean, anything in healthcare is hard because you are oftentimes really interacting with people at some of their worst times or some really critical moments, but it's packed full of meaning and purpose.
Right.
And I think that's what keeps us going. We in medicine hear a lot of hard, difficult things, and even there's a lot of things that we just can't solve. There's a lot of things we can, but being present with people through that and being able to guide and navigate with patients and families through those critical times, just come with a lot of meaning.
Man, I'll bet. Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense how you got into what you are doing now, this incredibly critical work that you guys are up to. But tell us how you physically got there. How did you end up in this nonprofit field?
Yeah, so it was definitely a journey.
Yeah.
I was drawn to Memphis, Tennessee for residency, where I did a dual residency program in internal medicine and pediatrics. And I was drawn there really to be a part of this wonderfully rich community of faith that was working and living in the inner city of Memphis through an organization called Christ Community.
Okay.
And in addition to, having a group of intentional people living in these more vulnerable inner city parts of the community, people were doing house church together. People were working in underserved clinics, practicing medicine together. and was really just drawn by that holistic approach to community care. And so I was newly married at the time. My wife and I moved there. We got involved in that community, did residency there, and had 3 kids there. So our family grew by quite a bit.
And you have 4 now, right?
I have 4 now. And then towards the end of that residency season, just started to pray about what the next steps might look like. And it was there where there was a small group of us that kind of came together, 4 physicians from 3 different families, because 2 physicians were married to each other, that were also asking the Lord, what's next? And we just really felt the call to form this team and to move together to a city of need, a place where we could use our skills and gifts of medicine to serve a community and work towards its flourishing.
It's incredible. Right. So what made you settle on Clarkston?
Yeah, so, well, as a part of that journey, we actually looked all over the country. We were open to going anywhere. We looked actually at California, at Oakland. We went to a trip to Baltimore, both really wonderful places and places we thought we could engage in and really make some meaningful impact. And the third trip we came to was Clarkston, and we were just really impacted by a number of things. The need, the community itself. I'm not sure if you know so much about Clarkston, but it is this wonderfully diverse community, and vibrant in so many ways, with a lot of different organizations and community and groups and churches kind of investing in it. But the piece that was missing was healthcare and providing people in that community with access to high quality, culturally sensitive healthcare. There was a need. Mm-hmm. And so we were really drawn to that need and really think that the Lord called us to that.
Amazing. So for people who don't know, so Clarkston is a massive immigrant refugee community, right? That's part of why it's so diverse. And I've heard it's one of the most diverse places in the world.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's right. So it's been called the Ellis Island of the South, the most diverse square mile in America. It's 1.2 square miles. And in that 1.2 square miles, there's estimated to be over 100 different ethnic groups, over 60 different languages within 1.1 square miles. And the reason for that is because of the history of the town. Back in the late 70s and early 80s, started to become a place of welcome for refugees.
Right.
People that were fleeing their country, not because they wanted to, because they had to. Most of the time fleeing war or violence or persecution. And so many of them have been resettled in Clarkston, and it just kind of creates this beautiful community.
It is really such a cool place. I go over there sometimes. There's a great coffee shop, Refuge. I'm sure you'll spend a lot of time there.
Yeah.
But then there's also, it's not in Clarkston, but there's DeKalb Farmers Market.
Yes.
And I love being in there because there's, one, the place itself has so many different things from around the world, products, and even the people. Like, you hear so many different languages just in one trip there. And it's really beautiful. And I love being in environments like that. My wife and I did a language training program down in Guatemala a few years ago. She was going to work for the organization she's still with that dig wells all over the world. So Living Water International is the name of the group. And one of the days, so this place, people come from all over the world to do a language immersion program.
Yeah.
And and in the afternoons, they'll do some outings. You'll get on, they call them chicken buses. And like everybody will get on these and go out somewhere, a coffee farm or whatever it is. And I just remember sitting there thinking, and the reason I'm saying this is because Clarkston reminds me, but sitting on that bus one day and just seeing people from all over the world. And I was like, this is kind of what I think heaven might look like,
Yeah.
And it was just such a cool thing because we were all there like doing one thing and just making friends and people that we've kept up with even to this day, from all over the place. And so I love that about Clarkston. I love that is what drew you guys to that place because it is such a unique place. But tell us more about how from there you guys started the practice. So you saw the need for better quality, culturally sensitive. I'd love for you to tell us more how you operate on that level, on the cultural sensitivity scale,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and how you guys accomplished that. But how did the
Yeah.
practice start with just you
Yeah.
and three other physicians?
Right,
Okay.
right. So the four of us, and actually we, through a little bit more of a backstory, joined with two local Atlanta-based physicians, one of being a pediatrician and the other a psychiatrist.
Awesome.
And really just came together. We moved to Clarkston in 2017, spent about a year just listening and learning. We didn't want to just come in with any type of just solution. We didn't want to come in
Right.
with just saying, we're doctors, this is what we're going to do. But we wanted to get to know people. We wanted to be neighbors first.
Right. Were you all practicing elsewhere?
We did,
during
yeah,
that time?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So we
Okay.
had to get jobs. We still had to have a house, have food on the table, pay the
Right.
bills.
3 kids,
so that
4.
helped.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And but while listening, and while we were there listening, there were just these needs that kind of kept coming up about, what the community wanted. In terms of healthcare, and those needs were, they wanted a place that was close by or someplace that was walkable. Many people in Clarkston don't have multiple cars, or if they have one, or maybe the husband's taking that to work. And so there's a lot of people that walk to get around. And in Clarkston, there's a number of apartment complexes that many of our patients live in. And a place that was walkable, was a really big value that we heard. And so the second thing that people told us that they needed or wanted was a place that offered interpretation, right? I mentioned over 60 languages in that area. And so, many people when they come to America, when they're resettled as refugees, they're learning English. And that's a process, for them, and everyone's on a journey on, that. But there's a big need for, medical services that are sensitive to the linguistic needs of the people it's serving. So a place that you could go to the doctor and be understood, right? Be heard and understand kind of what the plan is or what the treatment is. And so that was a big need. The third thing was a place that was open consistent hours. And so a place that people could go to and rely on that was going to be open 5 or more days a week, for example. And then lastly, a place that had price transparency. So as you know, we live in this U.S. American healthcare system where it's a confusing mixture of insurances and deductibles and co-payments and fees, and sometimes that's can be really hard to understand.
Yes.
And we found that people in our community, although many are coming from more difficult situations financially, did want to have skin in the game of paying for a little something, what they could, but they also wanted to be very clear on what they were paying and what they were getting.
Right.
And so we from the start have always wanted to be very sensitive to that and make sure that when we were starting Ethnē, that was a real value. So those were the 4 things that we heard.
Right.
And those were kind of the foundations for kind of how we designed Ethnē.
It's incredible. So how did you go from learning that, which I love that approach, that you guys took that amount of time, a year, to just listen? I mean, how much can you learn when you just have that as your goal, know, because it's hard to just sit back and listen, especially with your skills and your training and the group that you guys put together. It would have been easy to just jump right in and start something, but that is an incredible approach. So how did you go from learning those 4 main values and then putting them into practice? I mean, how do you deal with 60 different languages in a mile and a half? You know?
I mean, just to hear you say that sounds like it's an overwhelming task.
But I feel like that.
But really, at the core, when we started Ethnē, it was just starting small and being faithful to what we had, and then taking the next step that we saw. And if I was to imagine where we would be, and we're coming up on our 7th birthday, it would be hard to imagine that being, where we're at now. And we're so thankful for where we're at and the types of care that we're able to offer to our community. But it was really just, we opened 3 half days a week in a small little office with 2 paid staff.
Wow.
And then as we were able to just start seeing patients and learning and adjusting and shifting, and we've just been so thankful for how the Lord has blessed us to be able to grow from there.
That's incredible.
And so, now we're open, 5 days a week. We have a night clinic On Mondays, we do have 10 different providers that are physicians and nurse practitioners seeing patients, and able to offer this really cool model of care.
So one thing that comes to mind with it being such a diverse community, you're dealing with obviously cultural sensitivities, also religious though. I mean, there's people that are moving from all over the world, and you guys are a faith-based organization. You are a Jesus follower, I have taken, and so am I. And how do you operate as a faith-based organization in such a diverse community?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I love that question. In that, it's something we think about a lot. At Ethnē, we're very clear that we are followers of Jesus that are looking to follow him well, looking to follow Jesus' command to love God first and then to love our neighbor. And to really being moved by God's emphasis and command for justice and to work towards justice wherever we are. And so what that looks like at Ethnē in terms of interacting with the diversity of faiths that are there, Ethnē, we love to serve. We welcome people from all faith backgrounds or from no faith backgrounds. All from people that we see, even people that work with us come from a different faith sometimes. And we are very clear on what our mission is and our vision and our values, all of which are very scriptural based. And we just invite people to be a part of it. We're not forcing that on anybody. We are just there to invite people into this community of care and welcome and hospitality as we really try to meet practical needs in the community.
How does it, when you do have people from other backgrounds, how's it kind of go over? I mean, are people mostly receptive to that part of it? Are you kind of explicit about being faith-based, even though I know you're not necessarily trying to like proselytize from the go, but are people pretty open to the way that you guys do it? I mean, I'm sure they are, but from the sound of it, but.
Yeah, I mean, all of us are on a journey. And we all come from different places, and we meet people where they're at on that journey. We have patients that come to us and, are very open to prayer and, scripture reading, or that's a big part of their life. That's a big part of their support, and we have, and they welcome that as a part of their care. We have people that are not interested in that at all. But at the end of the day, we really try to put the patient in the driver's seat. We're not here to force anything. We're not here to, ask people to sign something or to be, like I said, proselytizing or saying you have to listen to this in order to get this.
There's no strings attached.
There's no strings attached. But we are also open about, just the impact that Jesus has had in our life and our desire to show and to share that with everyone. And so, again, patients are in the driver's seat. And so we have patients that say, I'm just not really interested in talking about that right now. Or I had a patient say, one time, I like to keep my faith and my doctor separate. That's okay. If that ever changes, we'll have a different conversation. But just to say, the patients are in the driver's seat on that. And I think we get to bring our authentic selves, in the care of patients. But then we also want patients to bring their authentic selves to that. And one of the things that's wonderful about primary care is it's very relational, and it's relational over time. And so we're seeing patients over years just get to develop these real rich, meaningful relationships with patients that we can encourage them in faith for those that are open to that. And for those that aren't, that's okay too.
Do you have any cool stories, just off the top of your head, putting you on the spot, but do you have any stories that kind of highlight the way that some of these interactions take place from all the interactions you have?
We have so many good stories. And one of the things that we talk about at our monthly staff meeting are these stories of hope and healing, because the work that we do is hard. And we love to share these stories of hope and healing with each other. And one of the stories that was shared at our staff meeting was the story of a patient that we've been taking care of for many years, and just a really difficult situation of a young lady who comes from East Africa, saw her mother actually killed in front of her, and since that time has not been able to move the left side of her body.
Wow.
And has had not only that, but incredible pain associated with that. And, we've been seeing her and caring for her. And, of course, we do every medical test to look for any, we'll say organic, whether it's a shoulder issue or a brain issue, a stroke or whatever that might be the cause of that. But, after we've done that work, kind of going back to just really stemming from the trauma and just working through the trauma.
So it was more psychological than physiological.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so, of course, we're trying medicines for these things, and but there's a lot of instances and situations that we face in our work where, there's a limit to what medicines can do. And so this particular patient is very open to prayer, and we've had the privilege of praying alongside this person and asking for God's healing in her life and over her movement and over her pain. And she shared recently, she speaks she speaks Kinyarwanda, and shared with our interpreter, our in-house interpreter, that whenever we pray for her in the clinic, her pain goes away. And so she loves prayer as a part of her care. And we're very open and love to be able to provide that for her.
Does she come from a Christian background?
She does.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So along those lines, because again, people from all over the place, are there more of those type of things, whether they're psychological, physiological? Are there special aspects to the type of care that you're giving based on kind of their background, whether they dealt with malnutrition? I mean, if you're talking about refugees, like that could have been a part of their background.
Yeah.
How do you guys kind of bridge that gap, or does that gap exist, and then how do you bridge it?
Yeah. So we certainly do see, certain, groups of patients that have been through different life experiences that carry with them, into the exam room, kind of just different sets of needs. The big thing being trauma, and, the mental illness associated with trauma, and even a lot of just the physiological and downstream health impacts of that. And so we do try to address those health impacts, but also very sensitive to the underlying trauma that needs to be processed and dealt with in order to, continue to move people along and walk with people along this journey towards wellness. Malnutrition, like you mentioned, is another thing that we do see. We live in this, in this environment where, many of us do have enough food on the table.
Too much.
And
in the West a lot, right?
But there's many people in our community that don't and are very food insecure.
Right.
Or maybe they just have ugali or rice and don't have access to meats or beans or fresh fruits and vegetables. And we do have programs and benefits, SNAP benefits, and try to get people connected to that. But there's still a lot of people that fall through the cracks.
Right.
And so iron deficiency is a big problem that we see in our kids.
Right.
Along with malnutrition. And so we're trying to work with community partners about thinking about holistic ways that we can help to address these problems outside of the exam room as well.
What about, as you were talking about iron, I was thinking about blood. What about like with dealing with folks from sub-Saharan Africa, malaria? I mean, that's kind of a long-term, that has some long-term ramifications, right?
Yeah.
Are there any other things like that where there's kind of ongoing care that is needed because of prior illness or, a vector that took place years ago?
So we do see that, from time to time, certainly. That's, from a medical standpoint, is very interesting. I get that question a lot from other people in the medical community. What interesting diseases or illnesses are you seeing?
Right. You're too close to the CDC.
Right, exactly. And we do see some of these things, certainly. One patient that we cared for developed a chronic liver infection when he was in a refugee camp in Tanzania as a young child, and it ended up causing very severe liver disease. And we've been taking care of him, being a part of his journey through healing for several years now. And so we do see these things. I will say it's not a lot of what we do.
Right.
Actually,
Okay.
believe it or not.
Is it more of is the long-term stuff more of a psychological thing? Because you were saying you had a psychiatrist than it is the physical and physiological.
Yeah, so I think it's all, I mean, we see probably some of the more common things that we see are around, metabolic diseases. So diabetes, high blood pressure, asthma, COPD. These are very common chronic illnesses that you just look at even in our American, community and culture. They're very common illnesses. They're also very common in the patients that we serve as well.
Right.
And so we do a lot of kind of more metabolic chronic disease management as well.
Fascinating. I noticed on your website, talks about your staff kind of being neighbors.
Yeah.
And being neighborly, and I love that you guys chose that word, because for us personally, like, our neighbors are some of our closest, like our physical neighbors that we live, or some of the folks that we're closest to, over the years. And how do you guys accomplish that with your staff and with you guys personally? Like, how are you guys neighbors in the community beyond the obvious, what you're doing to help heal people and take on these cases? But how do you guys live that out?
Yeah, well, thanks for the call out. It's a really important word to us, and for us, we're really motivated by, like I said, Jesus is called to love our neighbor, and the person, and our neighbor being defined as the person that's in front of us. And so you'll hear us talk about patients. Some people say clients. Those are fine words. Those words are not wrong. But first and foremost, these are neighbors that we're caring for. And I think that emphasis just, it's good because it challenges us to really look at people maybe a little differently. These are just not patients or a task or, something that we're trying to kind of get through the clinic or whatever. These are people that we're really trying to take care of.
Right.
First and foremost as neighbors, and coming alongside them and providing that. So I think, we talk a lot about hospitality as being a part of that. We want our neighbors to feel welcome. And we want to create these environments of welcome and have a staff that kind of exudes that neighborly welcome, to people that we see. And so one of the things that I think I appreciate most about Ethnē is our staff. And we love to hire from the community, from our neighbors, and they join with us in our work, and they're able to care for and minister to, our patient neighbors in remarkable ways. And I think that is such an important part of, I think, some of the success that we've had. When people come to a clinic and there's somebody there that speaks their language and looks like them and can help them to make an appointment and can help them to navigate through a visit and to understand the visit, it just makes all the difference in the world.
How many interpreters and how many languages are you guys able to take in?
Yeah, so we have 24 languages on staff. And the reason for that is we have some very talented staff members that speak 5 different languages. So we count that. But we see patients from over 60 different ones. So we still have a little bit of a ways to go there.
Wow.
And so we use an over-the-phone kind of medical professional kind of interpretation service that we kind of pay for by the minute for that.
Tell us about so you were talking earlier about the American landscape of getting health care, paying for health care, knowing who pays for what. I mean, I was telling you I have a background in pharmacy, and then I actually worked in finance for a hospital for a little while for Piedmont. And I felt like I left there knowing less about it than when I started. And so what's new across this landscape? We also have some new changes that have come out with new bills and all this kind of thing. What are the unique considerations, and how are you guys helping people to figure that out? How does the pay system work? How are you providing care on the administrative side, I guess?
Yeah, so one of the things that we do is we have an in-house person that kind of works their specific job is to help patients navigate through the billing process. And her time is fully dedicated to that.
Right.
And which is so important, because we'll have patients that come to us that sometimes get a bill from some other hospital or something they don't understand. What does this mean? And they bring it to her, and we're able to kind of walk them through what that means.
Right.
So having dedicated staff to that is, I think, a really important thing for us. But you mentioned, some of the changes that are happening, with the new bill that was passed, and some of the changes that we're expecting, to happen next year, particularly as it relates to Medicaid and some of the Affordable Care Act tax subsidies that people are taking advantage of to receive care. And, quite frankly, that's something that really concerns us.
Yeah.
The CBO estimates that in the state of Georgia, 750,000 people are going to lose insurance. And I'm very concerned that is going to fall disproportionately upon the most vulnerable people.
Right.
People that live in difficult financial circumstances, people that maybe can't read a notice from Medicaid about it expiring, or the need to kind of reapply or to do something else in order to be able to get that benefit. And so we're obviously very concerned about how this is going to impact our community and the patients that we take care of.
Right.
And so right now we're actually very committed to thinking about ways that we can be proactive,
Right.
in helping to mitigate, some of this, impact that we're expecting to see.
Right. What are some of the kind of steps you guys are taking in the near term to get ready for next year?
Yeah. So, one of the big things is around Medicaid.
Yeah.
And, Medicaid is something that refugees, these are, again, people that have been invited by our government to come and resettle and start over here because they were forced to flee their country. As a refugee, people get Medicaid for about 9 months, and that really just kind of helps them to get on a trajectory of kind of recovery and rebuilding their life here. And it's also a benefit that many of our refugee kids are able to stay on after that 9 months, because of kind of it is income-based in that sense. And with this new bill, it excludes refugees from having access to Medicaid. So pregnant women and children specifically. And so, again, these are the most vulnerable people in our community. And so we're really
starting over.
Exactly.
In a new place.
Exactly. And so some of the things that we're working with is kind of trying to understand, what are some ways that again, we can be proactive about thinking about, how we can help newly arrived refugees on a path to citizenship, on a path to getting a green card,
Right.
on a path to also understanding, after that process, some of the ins and outs of some of the Medicaid work requirements and how to apply and how to reapply. And then also some of our patients that would take advantage of some of the income-based tax subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. There's going to be changes to that, and how to still work within the system that's going to exist, although it's going to be harder.
Right.
Kind of working through a process of doing that well. So we're talking about everything from working with other community partners on that, working with our state Medicaid agencies, and then also just thinking about maybe additional staff that we have to add to walk with our more vulnerable patients through that process and through that transition.
I love that we talked about the neighbor thing first, because it feels like you guys started as a clinic, but now through trying to be good neighbors to the folks you're working with, you've kind of turned into this holistic care juggernaut of amazing things that you guys are doing with people. But I'm sure that has had its own challenges with, again, you're talking about staffing up, and all these positions that you're talking about are pretty specialized, right? I mean, for understanding the system. And what do you guys need? How are you gonna do this? And then what's kind of your greatest needs moving forward? And how can people who may see this get involved and help?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. You know, we love when people visit us.
Yeah.
And when people can kind of just come into the clinic, see what we're able to do or what we're doing. I didn't mention this, but we also have an amazing dental practice that started. It's coming up on its second birthday. And so that's at a different site, right across the railroad tracks, but right there in the center of Clarkston. Still walkable, still price transparency, still open 5 days a week.
All your values
still the interpretation, right?
Right.
And so we just invite people into that. We love people to come by and to see what we do, and to also think creatively about the gifts that they have and how they might be able to contribute to the work that we're doing. You know, we are always interested in talking with, if there's clinicians that want to come alongside what we do and kind of think about some creative ways that they could engage and get involved.
Can clinicians volunteer? Is that something that you guys
So
do?
right now, we actually don't have any volunteer clinician opportunities. And a part of that is that we really, it's just the consistency of seeing the same doctor or the same team over and over again. Now, that said, you know, if there is a clinician that says, I can be there 2 days a week and do something, you know, that might be something we could talk about.
You probably won't slam the door.
Right, exactly. To kind of be able to expand, you know, the types of services that our patients have access to.
Right.
But back to, you know, just coming in, getting involved, learning about what we do, you know, meeting with your group or small group, or, you know, working on we definitely have volunteer projects that come up throughout the year. You know, one of the big volunteer needs that we have is actually helping patients with transportation. So not necessarily to Ethnē, although sometimes that does come up, but, you know, getting patients to their mammogram, for example, which was, you know, going to be outside of Clarkston.
Right.
Or to see the gastroenterologist to get their colonoscopy done for colon cancer screening.
Right.
For example. So we utilize a pool of volunteers in that way as well. But we're open to talking with you. You know, if you want to get engaged and involved, we'd love to figure out a way to kind of get you plugged in.
I have a question for you personally. So you still see patients.
I do.
But you're so involved on everything. So how do you kind of balance your life right now between being on the clinical side, administration, good neighbor, all the incredible things you do, and then you're a dad to 4. So how are you managing?
Thanks for asking. I mean, I love what I get to do. I mean, it is a real blessing to be a part, to be able to, just this morning I was seeing patients all morning, and that's hard in a lot of ways, but it's a joy and it's deeply meaningful. And then this afternoon I'm able to do this, and just came out of an administrative meeting right before here, just kind of strategizing about ways that we can continue to improve and get better and support our teams and what we do. And so, you know, I'm in such a wonderful position and so humbled to be able to do both of those things.
Right.
But then you mentioned, of course, family as well being so important. And this is something I stress, you know, to our staff, is just, you know, the work and the need is always going to be there. It's never going to, but we have to be healthy first.
Right.
We want our families to be healthy and taken care of first, so that out of that good place, right, we can then overflow and serve others.
Right.
And so, you know, balance is a really important thing. I know a lot of people are talking about balance, and not that I get it perfectly at all. I have a wonderful wife who helps a lot with that.
Yes, of course.
And, but
how did you guys meet, by the way?
We met picking up trash one day. It was actually, we were going to a church actually in Midtown here in Atlanta, and they had their Sunday evening service, and Sunday mornings they did service in the community, and part of that was picking up trash, and that's how we met.
Wow. And now obviously it sounds like she's very bought into the work. I mean, she moved here to help start it. So that's got to be such a major thing for you to be able to give out of an abundance of what you get back when you're at home.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she couldn't be more supportive, and she's, you know, early on, you know, had definitely had more of a development role in the clinic. She actually came up with the word Ethnē, didn't come up with the word, but said this is a word that we should use for the clinic. But then as time has gone on, you know, she is, you know, mostly at home with the kids and still plays an influential role, but more of a background role.
Right. Amazing. So there are volunteer opportunities,
Yeah.
opportunities to give. I'm
Yes.
sure with something like
Yes.
this, how would people
Yes.
go about doing that? Website?
Yeah,
or-
so our website is probably the best point of contact for that. There's a clear area to give. There's another area to get involved. We post our career opportunities on there, and there's volunteer opportunities on there as well.
Right. And do y'all work with a lot of, being faith-based, do you work with a lot of churches and church volunteer groups? Is
We
that?
do.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's great
yeah.
to know.
So if there's a group, and if you have a group, we'd love to kind of talk about ways that we can engage you and your group into the clinic.
Wow. That was incredible. Wow. One other thing I just wanted to ask while we have a doctor here. So you were talking about keeping yourself healthy. What do you do? What's your healthcare routine for yourself?
Yes, thank you. Right. So I mean, solitude is really
Yeah.
quietness. I think
Right.
is really important. I start my day just in quietness. Try to get up early.
Yep.
For me, it's
What
just
time is
really
that? What time do
helpful.
you get up?
Depends on the day.
Okay.
Depends. Sometimes it's 5:45, sometimes it's 6.
Okay.
Not too early.
Right. That's good. I like that.
But before
Okay.
the kids wake up.
Yes.
And just time alone, time in scripture reading, time in prayer is very
Right.
grounding, for me. And then I love to stay physically active. I love just being outside. I really more recently got involved in pickleball.
Yes.
And that's a lot of fun.
Great.
And running, whatever it is, just being outside.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming here and doing this and sharing with anybody that may end up watching this, and hopefully people will see it through your platforms as well. How can people get in touch? Obviously the website. Tell us what the website is. I don't know if we mentioned that
Yeah, so the
before,
website is probably the best way.
Yeah.
We do have kind of a contact us page, and it does go to a person
Yes.
that looks at that and will respond to you. But the website is ethnehealth.org, ETHNE health.org.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Doctor, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
well, thank
It has
you for
been
having me.
Such
Yeah.
an honor to talk about this
Yeah,
and
likewise.
the incredible work that you guys are doing. I can't wait to get out and see it myself and
Yeah.
maybe get some refuge coffee while I'm there too. So
Yeah. Well, I'm very humbled that you'd have us, and thanks for the good work that you're doing.
thank you so much.